Life is a journey, a harrowing odyssey through chaos and order, where each individual must confront the very depths of their being. Pain, that omnipresent and inevitable companion, is woven into the fabric of our existence. It is something that, try as we might, cannot be avoided. But here's the truth, and it's a hard truth. Pain is not merely a punishment, nor is it a cruel twist of fate. Pain is information, a signal, both from the depths of your own psyche and from the world around you. Such signals always demand your attention and compel you to grow. Think of the moments in your life when you were really tested. Perhaps it was the loss of a loved one, a failed relationship, or the crushing weight of defeat in your career. These are moments when the structure you have so carefully built begins to crumble, leaving you exposed, raw, and vulnerable. It is at these very moments, when the walls have collapsed and chaos reigns, that you are given an opportunity, a chance to confront reality for what it is, a realistic view of your existence and the limitations of your character. Pain, therefore, is not an enemy to vanquish, but a teacher, harsh as it may be, but directing you to aspects of your life needing change. We are creatures of habit, attracted to comfort like moths to a flame. But comfort, as attractive as it is, has its double edge. The more we adhere to it, the more we stagnate. Growth involves sacrifice, and sacrifice requires the disposition for pain. Pain, at its very easiest definition, is the cost of transcendence. It challenges us to give up parts of ourselves that do not assist us, let go of outworn beliefs, and construct ourselves stronger and more durable. For instance, consider forging steel. It starts as a crude lump of metal, unrefined and full of impurities. To become strong and unyielding, it must go through the crucible of fire, be hammered repeatedly, and plunged into icy waters to harden. This is not a gentle process. It is violent and exacting. And yet, it is only through this process that the steel achieves its full potential. You are no different. The fire is the pain you feel. The hammer is pounding on you, and the cold water is what cools you down. It is the force that molds you, strengthens you, and readies you to face the test of life. But here's the thing, it's not enough to just suffer pain. Pain without reflection will only lead to bitterness and resentment. You have to step forward into coupling's future. You must take your position within the circle of concern, your responsibility for another, and wonder, what can this pain teach me? What might it reveal to me about my character, values, and ambitions? It is only when you decide to confront chaos head-on and engage in that wrestle with chaos that you begin to discover meaning in suffering, and it is meaning that has the strength to overcome despair. Think of the great mythological stories that have survived the ages, whether it's the trials of Hercules, the journey of Odysseus, or the crucifixion of Christ. The message is unmistakable. Suffering is not a deviation, but an integral part of the human experience. These stories teach us that it is in suffering, that is, in accepting the burden of existence, that we find redemption and purpose. They remind us that the path to greatness is not a straight line, but a winding road fraught with obstacles, setbacks, and pain. It is tempting in the face of pain to retreat into nihilism, to declare that life is meaningless and abandon the pursuit of higher aims. But this, I assure you, is a trap. It is a seductive but ultimately destructive response to suffering. The surrender to nihilism is, in fact, a denial of what lends meaning to this life, the possibility of growth, of change, of becoming more tomorrow than you were yesterday. Pain, when fostered as fuel, drives transformation. It pushes you ahead against the backdrop of facing your fears, opening your horizons, and precisely changing your limitations. Think of the lives of those who have transcended unbearable pain and achieved greatness. Think of Viktor Frankl, who endured the horrors of a concentration camp and emerged with a profound understanding of the importance of meaning. Think of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison and emerged as a beacon of hope and reconciliation. These people did not let pain defeat them. They used it as a source of strength, a wellspring of wisdom, and a guide toward a higher purpose. They understood that pain, though inevitable, is not insurmountable. It can be harnessed, transformed, and transmuted into something profoundly beautiful. The question, therefore, is not whether you'll face pain, but how you will respond to it. Will you let it break you and turn you into a shadow of what you were? Or will you make it be your crucible in that raw material wherein you steel a tougher and more resilient self? What's yours? And it is one you have to make every day. every step in your life if you're struggling or in doubt. Let me be clear, this is not a call to masochism or martyrdom. It's not an invitation to go around looking for pain, to look for the agony and then find the meaning. No, this is just the acceptance of life's reality. The call to stand in that reality with strength and tenacity. Pain will come. It does not matter whether you ask for it or not, whether you will run from it or face it head on, whether you will allow it to consume you or use it as fuel to propel you toward your highest potential. There is a deep dignity in embracing pain, in refusing to shy away from the difficulties of life. This is proof of the strength within the human spirit, of our capacity for resilience and transformation. And let me assure you, this is not a solitary endeavor. We are communal creatures, deeply interconnected, and our struggles are not individual struggles. By embracing your pain and using it as fuel, you not only transform yourself, but also inspire others to do the same. You become a torch of hope, a living testimony to the human spirit that overcomes it all. So when pain comes, and surely it will, do not flinch. Do not curse the pain or bemoan your fortune. Face the pain with courage, curiosity, and the fearless trust that it conceals within it the seed of your transformation. Use it to fuel your ascent, to push you beyond the confines of your comfort zone, and to propel you toward the person you were always meant to become. Because in the end, it is not the absence of pain that defines a meaningful life, but the ability to rise above it, to grow through it, and to emerge stronger on the other side. The way we view the world is very much entwined with the stories we create about our lives. Those stories, in turn, affect how we behave, feel, and even view life itself. One of the most potent tools at our disposal is the ability to change our perspective, reframing the stories we tell ourselves, and seeing our circumstances through different eyes. This is quite a difficult capacity, yet an essential element in personal development and living life as best as possible. When we refer to changing perspective, we are speaking to the mental frameworks that influence the way we make sense of our reality. Those frameworks are dynamic rather than fixed. They evolve because of the background into which one is born, cultural influences, educational background, and individual experiences. And they filter our understanding of reality to highlight certain things, but obscure others. This selective attention is a double-edged sword. It allows us to focus and act decisively, but it can also trap us in rigid patterns of thought that prevent us from seeing alternative possibilities. The first step in shifting perspective is recognizing that our current way of seeing things is not the only way. This requires humility, a willingness to admit that our understanding is incomplete or even flawed. Humility is not weakness, it's strength. It's the courage to confront the limits of our knowledge and to open ourselves up to new information, experiences, and ideas. This openness is crucial because it allows us to question the assumptions that underpin our worldview. Consider the role of assumptions in shaping our perceptions. Assumptions are like the foundation of a house. If the foundation is unstable, the entire structure becomes precarious. Many of our assumptions are unconscious, formed during childhood or in response to traumatic events. They're not scrutinized because they've been with us for so long that they feel like truths. But they're not immutable. We can judge the validity of such beliefs and, if need be, replace them with more accurate or constructive beliefs by bringing them into the light of conscious awareness. A very practical way to challenge assumptions is deliberate exposure to different perspectives. It does not mean you have to abandon your values or beliefs, but it does mean engaging with ideas that challenge your comfort zone. Read books that confront your biases. Have conversations with people whose views differ from yours. Travel to places that disrupt your usual way of thinking. Each of these experiences can act as a mirror, reflecting back to you the blind spots in your perspective. Another fundamental building block for perspective shifting is reframing adversity. Life is inherently filled with suffering and difficulty. That's an undeniable truth. But the way we interpret and respond to these challenges determines their impact on us. Reframing is not about denying pain or pretending that everything is fine. It's about finding meaning in the struggle, about transforming chaos into order. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust, wrote extensively about this in his seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning. He observed that those who survived the concentration camps were often those who could find meaning in their suffering, who could see their pain as part of a larger story rather than as an isolated, senseless event. Reframing requires a shift of focus. No longer do you ask, why is this happening to me? But instead say, what can I learn from this? Or, how can this make me stronger? Not that you dismiss the difficulty in the situation, but you refuse to let the difficulty define you. It's an act of defiance against despair, the way you say, I won't let it break me, I will break through it. To change your view is also to take responsibility. Responsibility is not a burden, it's a pathway to meaning. Taking responsibility for your actions, your thoughts, and your emotions empowers you to change. You are no longer a victim of circumstance, but an active participant in shaping your life. This is the transformation from being a victim to being an agent. It's the difference between seeing yourself as a pawn in someone else's game and recognizing that you're the author of your story. But responsibility is not without its pain. It demands that you look at yourself with uncomfortable truths, your flaws and shortcomings. That's not easy. It hurts to admit that you are wrong, hurt others, or failed to achieve your potential. But that's the pain you have to feel. It is the signal that there is something wrong and needs to change, a trigger for growth. Once you face the pain head on, you open the door to transformation. Another critical aspect of shifting perspective is cultivating gratitude. Gratitude is not just an emotion, it's a practice. It's a deliberate effort to focus on the good in your life, even amidst hardship. This doesn't mean ignoring the bad, it means balancing your perspective. It's easy to get caught up in what's wrong, in what's missing, in what could be better. Gratitude will shift your attention to what's right, to what you have, to what's already working. This is not just psychological, it's physiological. There is evidence that gratitude can actually rewire the brain, making neural pathways for positive emotions stronger and those linked to negativity weaker. Gratitude also binds you to something bigger than you. It reminds you that you're part of a broader tapestry of relationships, events, and circumstances that have led to your existence. It's a really grounding feeling at times when the future is unclear or in times of desperation. You feel you're not alone in your life because it's interconnected with the lives of others, and this is your strength. Finally, shifting perspective requires patience. Change doesn't happen overnight, it's a process, often a slow and iterative one. There will be setbacks, moments when it feels like you're making no progress or even regressing. These moments are part of the journey. They're opportunities to practice resilience, to recommit to the process, and to remind yourself why the effort is worth it. Shifting perspective is not an act done once in life. It's a lifelong practice, a continued effort to see more clearly, understand more deeply, and live more fully. Life is decidedly trial by trial. It is an unfolding drama of suffering, interrupted by flashes of joy and meaning. Pain, physical, emotional, psychological, is undoubtedly one of the most basic facts in the world of man. It is inescapable, a constant companion to our fragile and finite being. But pain is not only a malady, it is also a sign, a summons, a plea to meet the turbulence, inside and out. To act despite the pain is to proclaim that life is worthwhile beyond mere survival, to aspire for something more, truth, responsibility, and sense. Pain is not something that happens to you, it's a deep educator. Pain recalls for us our limitations, our vulnerabilities, and the finitude of existence. It breaks the illusions built around us so we may feel the pain and exposes our vulnerability to realities. And then there is confrontation with what actually is, to what is actually true. From this confrontation springs an opportunity at growth, change. But the decision is ours. Will we let pain break us, turn us to bitterness and hopelessness? Or will we stand straight up, shoulders squared, and bear it valiantly? For this there is no comfort, but it must be done. Acting in pain is an act of refusing to allow ourselves to become a victim. We accept that pain is not something that occurs contrary to the natural order of things, but rather an aspect of it. And it is exactly because life is so hard that what we do, what we decide, and what we have responsibility for means so much. If everything was easy, if there was no pain, no strife, then to what end strive? Why pursue anything? So pain becomes not only the block, but the road sign as well. It points us toward what needs to be addressed, toward what demands our attention and effort. Think, for instance, of physical rehabilitation after an injury. The process is agonizing. Each movement is accompanied by discomfort, by the reminder of what has been lost. Yet it is from the very effort of hanging in there, of forcing oneself to take another step, of stretching a little bit further, that the power and mobility, the freedom and strength can be gained. Pain does not fade away, it becomes meaningful. It becomes a testimony to their will, their refusal to give up. The principle transcends the physical dimension. Emotional and psychological pain, too, can be a catalyst for growth if we confront it head on, if we refuse to let it dictate the terms of our existence. But how does one take action in the face of pain? The first step is to accept its reality. Denial only exacerbates suffering. To deny pain is to deny the very conditions of life. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It doesn't mean passively enduring it. Rather, it means to accept the pain as it exists and take responsibility for how one would react to such a situation. That is not a small job. It needs honesty, courage, and readiness to face one's own darkness. It asks hard questions like, what's causing the pain? What can I do to make this stop? What sacrifices must I make to continue? Acting requires self-discipline. Pain will often whisper seductively of despair, of the futility of effort. It tries to invite us back to comfort, to avoidance. Comfort is not to be equated with fulfillment, and avoidance is not to be equated with peace. It is that sense of accomplishment at having gone through what had to be gone through, of having done what had to be done. Discipline is that which brings one over the divide of suffering into meaning. It is how one changes chaos into order, unbearable things into bearable things. And it is not an act done once. It is an everyday affair. It is the choice, made again and again, to act in accord with our highest values, even when, with a sort of special piquancy, this is difficult. Another crucial element is the pursuit of meaning. Pain so often feels unbearable when it seems pointless. When we cannot see any purpose to our suffering, it threatens to engulf us. But meaning can transmute suffering into something else entirely. As the great psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl made an observation, those who found meaning in their suffering were much more likely to endure and even transcend that suffering. Meaning gives context, a narrative, a reason to continue. It cannot be given to us. It must be sought, discovered, and cultivated. And meaning is often found not in grandiose achievements, but in the small, everyday acts of responsibility. Caring for a child, doing our work diligently, extending a hand to someone in need. These acts affirm life in the face of its hardships. They are declarations that, despite everything, existence is worthwhile. It is also important to have a vision. Pain narrows our focus, drawing our attention to the immediate, the urgent, the distressing. But a vision, a clear and compelling picture of what we are striving toward, can help us rise above the immediacy of our suffering. A vision provides direction, a sense of purpose that is larger than the pain of the moment. It reminds us that our actions, however small, contribute to something greater. And a vision is not static. It grows as we grow, learns as we learn, as it meets the trials of life. It's a compass that doesn't mark the end, but shows direction. And again, pain also creates community. Pain separates from the people because it convinces us that nobody understands us and nobody goes through this. So it tells us we're alone in suffering. And it is not the truth. Human beings are social creatures, and connection is one of our most profound needs. To share our pain with others, to speak honestly about our struggles, and to listen to theirs is to affirm our common humanity. It is to recognize that we are not alone, that we are part of something larger than ourselves. Community provides support, encouragement, and accountability. It reminds us that while the burden of life is heavy, it is not ours to bear alone. Finally, there is the matter of gratitude. Pain often blinds us to the good in our lives. It focuses our attention on what is lacking, on what is wrong. However, in acting, despite pain, one does make a conscious effort to recognize and appreciate what is still good and beautiful. It is not denying suffering, but accepting the full scope of existence as a reminder that even at the worst time, there is still much for which to be thankful. Gratitude does not eliminate pain, but it puts it into perspective. It allows us to see pain as part of a larger picture, as one element in the complex and rich tapestry of life. To take action despite the pain is ultimately to affirm life itself. It is to say, yes, this is difficult. Yes, this hurts, but I will not let that stop me. I will strive. I will create. I will contribute. It is a rise above the chaos, imposing a fragile transitory order upon it. It is a taking of responsibility in our own lives, in this manner inspiring others to do likewise. This cannot be an individualist's task alone. It is a collective task. For every act of courage, every instance of perseverance strengthens the fabric of human society. And so, despite the pain, we act. we choose, we move forward. And in doing so, we affirm the value and dignity of human existence. Owning your transformation, that's no small task, let me tell you. It's a call to responsibility, to sacrifice, and to courage. And why should it be anything less? Life itself is a series of transformations, both invited and imposed. The question is whether you're going to let life shape you passively, or whether you'll take the reins and engage in the profound act of self-creation. That's not an invitation to narcissism, but a mandate for responsibility. It's a serious thing, after all, to become who you could be, to stop being who you are in some sense, and to move forward into the unknown with a willingness to be something more. To own your transformation is to accept, first and foremost, that you're not what you could be. That's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the necessary starting point. How often do we comfort ourselves with the delusion that we're fine just as we are? But are you fine as you are? Really? Look at your life. Not with the eyes of someone seeking to confirm their biases, but with the eyes of someone brave enough to confront the truth. Is your house in order? Are you striving toward the best that you could be? If not, what is it that you are doing? To own your transformation is to confront these questions, not as a victim of circumstance, but as an active participant in your own life. We often think that transformation begins with inspiration, and perhaps that is true to some degree. A vision of what could be may light a fire within you. But inspiration alone is fleeting. It's discipline, that relentless commitment to act in alignment with your higher aims, that carries you forward. Discipline is not just about keeping promises to yourself. It's about making those promises in the first place. What could you do if you really committed? That's the real question. And the answer, if you're honest with yourself, might be terrifying in its potential, because potential brings with it the weight of work and the threat of failure. But what's the alternative? To stagnate? To rot in comfort? Surely that's no better. Change is an integration process, too. It is not about rejecting who you have been, not entirely anyway. There are parts of you that are worth holding on to, pieces of wisdom and strength that you have earned through the struggles of your past. But there are also aspects of yourself that you must confront and overcome. The lies you tell yourself, the excuses you make, the habits that drag you down, all of these must be brought into the light and dismantled. And that's painful. It's akin to a death in some ways, because the person you are now has to die for the person you could be to emerge. But it is a death in itself, worthy of dying, for what waits on the other side is both a better view of yourself and a life filled with meaning and purpose. You cannot own that transformation without at least willingness to aim high. That is, set your sights on something that at first glance seems, well, impossibly far beyond your reach. Why? Because aiming low doesn't incite to action. It doesn't push you to grow. And growth, true growth, requires challenge. You have to aim at something that makes you stretch, that forces you to confront your inadequacies and rise above them. And when you fail, because you will fail, you have to muster the courage to get back up, to learn from your mistakes and to press on. That's the heart of transformation, not one single giant leap, but rather small intentional steps taken day by day. And with each step, you take a stride beyond the last one, until suddenly you are traveling farther than you ever could have imagined. Of course, no one ever says owning your transformation is easy. It's a war against the elements of chaos and complacency on both sides of your soul. There will be times of doubt when the weight of responsibility is too much to bear, but that is what makes you. Do you retreat into comfort, or do you press forward into the discomfort that leads to growth? The choice is yours, and it's a choice you'll have to make again and again. Let's not forget either the role of sacrifice in transformation. You can't become something new without letting go of what's old. That's a universal principle, as true in nature as it is in human life. To gain something valuable, you have to give up something in return. What are you willing to sacrifice? Time, comfort, old habits, relationships that no longer serve you? These are hard questions, but they're necessary ones, because the price of transformation is high, but the rewards, they're higher still. They're the things that make life worth living: purpose, meaning, and the deep satisfaction of knowing that you've become who you were meant to be. And here's the thing, when you own your transformation, you're not just changing yourself, you're changing the world around you. Because when you become better, you inspire others to do the same. Your courage becomes a beacon, your discipline a model, your success a proof of what's possible. That's not a small thing, that's a ripple effect that can transform not just your life, but the lives of those you care about, and even those you'll never meet. To own your transformation is to take responsibility for your own potential. It's stopping pointing fingers and to start asking yourself what you could do to improve. It's embracing the discomfort of growth and trusting that the effort is worth it, because it is. It is worth every ounce of effort, every moment of sacrifice, and every step forward into the unknown. And in the end, it's the only road that leads to a meaningful life, full of purpose and truly fulfilling.